Let's talk about how to pass the video interview for Shell. What's up guys, it's Mike from Job Ready English here with another video to help you get hired. Today we're going to be talking about the oil and gas giant Shell. Popularity of this video in 2022 and 2023 really shocked me. I must admit, we don't really cover a lot of oil and gas companies. We covered Shell, we covered BP, and of course you'd have other massive companies like Exxon or Aramco, but it's not really in our wheelhouse. Having said that, Shell has consistently been one of our most popular videos around the world, so we thought it was time for an upgrade, and of course we always want to deliver content that you want as our audience. So today we're going to be talking about the first round video interview process for Shell. I'm going to start off by telling you 5 fast facts about Shell. Then I'm going to talk to you about the process that you can expect as a graduate to go through for a first round video interview. And then we're going to cover the most common questions that came up based upon our research and how to think about answering these questions in a no BS and direct way. So let's get started. Here are 5 fast facts about Shell. Fact number 1, Shell is investing $10 to $15 billion in low carbon utilisation solutions. Fact number 2, Shell has built the UK's first electric vehicle only charging hub based in Fulham in London, and it currently has a utilisation rate of 44%. Fact number 3, Shell is on target to be carbon neutral by 2050, going through a 3-stage process. Fact number 4, Shell operates in 99 countries, has 44,000 petrol stations, and produces 3.7 million barrels of oil per day. And finally, fact number 5, Shell breaks even when crude oil is priced at $30 a barrel, and anything above that, Shell is in profit. So let's talk about the format of the video interview that you can expect. And there were a couple of interesting things about this. This is a new process. Sometimes when I make past the interview videos, the companies most of the time won't really change. The reason being is companies have to spend a lot of money investing into a new technology, a new process, and then rolling this out across lots of different countries. So most companies will change their process at best every 2 to 3 years. That's a little tip if you're kind of wondering, well, is it the same as last year? The answer is probably. Of course, we're being quite general across the Times Top 100 graduate companies. Now, Shell has changed their process in what they call the virtual job tryout, which is split into 3 parts, and we're going to call this the first part and the second part. The first part has 2 discrete sections, which is a personality test and ranking SJT questions. I highly recommend that you use Job Test Prep, and we're going to put links to Shell's online tests, which you can practice through Job Test Prep, down in the description below. The second part is an on-demand video interview where you can expect, as was self-reported, 3 questions, but I would prepare for more. Now, the really cool thing about Shell's process for 2023 and probably for 2024, seeing as I've just changed it, is that you can re-record your answers as many times as possible. Would this count against you? Is this something that they'll measure and analyze? We don't know, but what I would say is you really want to go in and be prepared rather than go in, see the question, and then spend an hour trying to prepare and re-record it again. I think that is something that would be measured in terms of how much time it took you to complete the whole test. And that is an assumption based upon previous experience. Let's go through the 6 most common questions that you can expect to find in the Shell video interview. Question number 1, tell me about a time when you had a different opinion to somebody else. Now, a lot of candidates reported that the breakdown of questions was like 2 competency questions and 1 motivation question. Something to always bear in mind is that processes can change, you could get more questions, it does differentiate between roles. Very often, a lot of the comments that I don't post and I don't respond to are people saying, yeah, but what about a software engineer in Botswana? I don't know. I'm trying to make a general video for a multinational company to help as many people as possible. But you're probably going to need to do a little bit of homework yourself in order for you to be successful, seeing as it is your job that you're applying to. It's not my job, right? So with this question and behavioral questions in general, you want to think about the hierarchy of experience. And I explain this, much better in the courses contained in our Shell Pass the Interview pack, which is in the description down below. The hierarchy of experience goes work, extracurricular activities and volunteering, academic, personal. Why? Because you're applying for a job. So the most applicable experience is work experience. Then the most applicable experience is experience outside of studies and personal life. You may not have gotten paid for it, but also it's not something that you have to do to get your degree, for example. Then it's academics, then it's personal. Now, pretty much everybody watching this video will have some form of academic experience, so you can use that, and you would only use personal experience if you had no academic experience. So what about a time when you had a different opinion to somebody else? When using STAR to answer these types of questions, situation, task, action, result, you want to think that the majority of your answer should be in the action. So let's talk about having a difference of opinion. Well, there's nothing wrong. It's just a different way of doing something. So you have a project, a task, something that needs to get done, and you have somebody who has a difference of opinion. So what do you do next? Well, first of all, it's not about winning. It's about being successful at the matter at hand. So you would try and understand their point of view, where they're coming from, what is the basis for the difference of opinion. Is it personal? Is it professional? Is it based on data? Is it just anecdotal, i.e. just based upon a story or their own experience? And also, if you're trying to get somebody to come around to your opinion, or perhaps you change your opinion to suit that other person, then you want to explain that process that you go through by clearly matching that up with the result that you're looking to achieve at the end of this process. Question number 2, tell me about a time when you received feedback from someone to your benefit. Now, this is super interesting, and a lot of people will have received feedback for academic work. Ideally, this would be for, general work. And something to think about is, to your benefit can actually be just constructive feedback. It could be like, hey Mike, this is really good, this report that you put in, but actually there's a couple of things that I want to go through with you because I know that you're new and I just want to break down the way that we do things here. This is a process that I'm quite familiar with, not just through one-to-ones, but also through hiring people through our businesses. And what will generally happen is when I try to take the time, if a manager is not available, to sit down with somebody and give somebody feedback. And the way that I would do that is by clearly outlining the tasks that needed to be done, the way that we do things, i.e. the culture, the system, the processes, and just outlining the things that they would need to change. And also giving a really realistic expectation, because it takes people about 3 months to get used to a new role. So something that you're not going to do when you're giving feedback is be really harsh or really critical. A good manager or a good leader will always bring the responsibility back to themselves and think, well, have I communicated effectively? Is it clear what you needed to do? Could we improve our systems and process? It's only much later down the line you might think, well, is this person clearly not fit for purpose? Have we made a mistake? Question number 3, why do you want to work for Shell? So I already went through these 5 fast facts. And interestingly, I've been doing a lot of one-to-one consultations where, somebody will book us a half an hour or 60-minute session with me, generally through watching a video of mine on YouTube and then clicking one of the links down in the description. And this has been a question that a lot of people really struggle to answer. And I'm going to be really honest with you as to why they struggle. Laziness. It takes 10-15 minutes to pick out facts about a company. Now, if it's a publicly traded company like Shell, you can just go and look at their investor relations and then look at their media or press packs. Shell also does something called an investor day every year where they share news about the business and what they're doing. It's so easy to find 5 unique facts. If you want to make it a little bit better, then you can find one of the facts that relates to you personally, so you can inject a little bit of personality into what is essentially a list. Question number 4, what do you do when you receive negative feedback? Now, negative feedback is really when somebody says, this could have been better. You know, it could be something where, you know, somebody is really upset or they're having a bad day or they're like, oh my God, this is awful. But I think for most people, negative feedback is just, look, this needs to be improved. Perhaps you need to go away and do this again, or you just completely didn't understand the task that was at hand and what you needed to do. Now, understanding negative feedback is, first of all, I always say when I have received negative feedback or I give this to somebody else, the most important thing to communicate is, number 1, what's wrong? Number 2, how do you fix it? So if you've received negative feedback, what you're going to be thinking is, okay, I know what I did wrong, and then I'm going to ask that person, well, how can I fix this? How can I make this better? Now, maybe that person gives you that answer, or maybe they don't. You know, I've heard lots of feedback given to other people where someone has just pointed out what they've done wrong and given them no kind of way to fix that. They're just problem orientated and not solution orientated. So maybe you go away, you talk to your colleagues, you use the internet, you go to forums where other people like you are talking about the feedback that was given and the nature of the problem of the task that you're doing. And then you figure out a way to get better at this thing, and then you finish off your answer by explaining, and the next time I did this thing, I did much better because I'd incorporated A, B, C from the feedback to improve my result. Question number 6, explain a time when you have faced challenges. I would actually slightly modify this question so that it's easier to understand, is explain a time when you faced your biggest challenge. Now, a big challenge is a big challenge. Sometimes when I hear people answer this question, they'll kind of say like, well, you know, I was a little bit late to work, or I had a deadline and I also had to submit an essay. And I'm like, is that the biggest challenge you faced in your life? I'm not being funny, but your life's all right. Big challenges for me tend to be multiple things that have to be done in conjunction. A good example of this is I'm studying for my exams, I have a part-time job, and I also needed to do something else. They tend to be 2 or 3 pronged, potentially more, hopefully not more, in which case maybe you're just doing too much. What's really important when answering this question is clearly outline what the challenges are and how you sequentially fix this problem. A concept that's come up quite a lot from my consultations in October is getting people to understand that they are not talking, they are teaching. And by teaching, I mean, for example, with a question like this, you're teaching somebody how to face that challenge. When you're thinking like a teacher, you're much more likely to break stuff down into individual steps to make sure that it's sequential and logical. You're not going to go, oh, I had this problem and then I fixed it and now it's all better. Well, that's not helpful. It's not helpful for the interviewer, for the video interview, and also that wouldn't be helpful if you were teaching someone. You'd be like, here's a maths problem and I solved it, right, get on with it. You wouldn't do that, would you? You'd be like, right, okay, so this is how we think about this problem and this is the framework that we would use. Let's do an example together, blah, blah, blah. So think about that with competency questions. If you're struggling to add more to the action part of STAR, it's because you're talking, you're not teaching. Question number 6, explain a time when you've had to overcome cultural diversity. Now this was an interesting question. I liked it because actually it's pretty relevant and it's quite true in the workplace. So what does cultural diversity mean? It just means geographically or psychographically actually dealing with people who have a different way of doing things. You know, culturally as a Brit, I have a different way of doing things to my friend who is from Kenya, to another friend who is from Belgium, to another friend who is from the United States. And this can be observed through the way that we communicate, the way that we hear things, the language that we use, and the way that we may get things done over time. I think a really important way of overcoming cultural diversity in the sense of making sure that we work together well is having a really clear plan initially. Making sure that once you're, kicking something off or getting something started, it's like, okay guys, this is the project that we've got to do. It's got to be due in 3 months. These are the stages of the project. These are the rough timings. This is what everyone's going to be doing. Explaining to those people what they would do and being very clear in your communication, in your strategy, in checking up on people, in the sense of saying, hey, how's it going? Are you all right? Do you need any help? Is there anything that you don't understand? I find one of the biggest mistakes that people make is that they assume because they understand, other people understand. Now, most people don't like to say that they do not understand because they don't want to look stupid. I know, that's stupid, but we need to be realistic in that approach. So very often I will consistently ask people lots of questions and be like, is that all right? Do you want me to explain that again? Is there anything that you want me to go through? Do you remember that? While say if I'm in a meeting and I'm talking to somebody or a group of people, I'll send them messages at the same time, and I always check that people understand. I'll be like, is that okay? Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Do I need to give you any more detail? Questions are so important to just capture understanding, and also to read people's body language, because sometimes I'll ask people if they understand stuff and I just know they don't. This happens quite a lot when I have new people join the team because of, status and hierarchy. Even though we're a fairly flat company, which the people who've been with me for years already know, but if I'm talking to somebody and they're new, they're a bit like, oh my God, he's the boss. I have to look intelligent. And one thing that I kind of really emphasize when I first meet somebody, or after I've had, been a part of their final interview, if I'm even involved in that process, just say, dude, look, if you don't understand something, just say. If you can't do something, just say, because it's just quicker. Like, no one's gonna punish you, no one's gonna shame you, no one's gonna say, oh my God, I can't believe you don't know that. It's just gonna allow us to have a much more accurate understanding of where you're at, so that we can provide you the resources that you need to be successful to help us. Guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video. Please, if you did, consider liking this video, dropping us a comment down below. Let me know how's your interview. Have you got an interview coming up, and how did you get on? And join the many, many hundreds, if not thousands of people, I think now, who we have helped get hired over the years. Good luck.